Earth has remained habitable despite volcanoes releasing carbon dioxide, continents moving, oceans changing shape, and ice sheets repeatedly growing and shrinking. The planet has passed through warm greenhouse periods and colder icehouse climates, yet its temperature has usually stayed within a range where liquid oceans and complex life could survive. Scientists have long suspected that slow natural feedbacks act like a planetary thermostat. New research has now identified a previously hidden part of that system, involving sea level, phosphorus, microscopic marine life, and carbon buried beneath the ocean floor. The discovery focuses on the last 60 million years. Near the beginning of this period, Earth was much warmer than it is today. Atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations were higher, large permanent ice sheets were mostly absent, and forests grew in places that are now frozen. Over millions of years, the planet gradually cooled. Antarctica developed a major ice sheet, temperatures declined, and carbon dioxide was removed from the atmosphere. The mystery was where so much of that carbon went. One familiar explanation involves the weathering of rocks. Rainwater absorbs carbon dioxide and becomes weakly acidic. As it flows across exposed rock, it reacts with minerals and carries dissolved material into rivers and eventually the ocean. Over extremely long periods, some of the carbon becomes trapped in carbonate sediments. Warmer and wetter conditions can accelerate weathering, so increased temperatures eventually encourage processes that remove more carbon dioxide. This slow response is often described as Earth's geological thermostat. But weathering alone did not fully explain the climate record. The new study suggests that marine life and changing sea levels played a much larger role than previously recognized. The key nutrient was phosphorus, particularly the dissolved form known as phosphate. Phosphate is essential for life. Cells use phosphorus to build DNA, cell membranes, and molecules that store and transfer energy. In many parts of the ocean, the amount of available phosphate limits how much plankton can grow. When more phosphate reaches sunlit surface waters, microscopic algae and other organisms can multiply. Through photosynthesis, they absorb carbon dioxide and convert it into organic matter. Most of this material is quickly recycled. Organisms are eaten, waste decomposes, and carbon returns to the water or atmosphere. But a small fraction sinks into the deep ocean and becomes buried in seafloor sediments. If that carbon remains buried, it is removed from the atmosphere for thousands or millions of years. The researchers found that sea level strongly influenced how much phosphate reached the open ocean. This created a feedback linking global temperature, ice sheets, coastlines, plankton growth, oxygen levels, and atmospheric carbon dioxide. When Earth was extremely warm, little water was locked inside continental ice sheets, so sea level stood much higher than today. Shallow seas spread across broad areas of the continents, creating enormous continental shelves. These shallow environments acted as traps. Phosphate became captured in coastal sediments before it could escape into the deep ocean. With less phosphate reaching open water, marine productivity was limited. Fewer microscopic organisms grew, and less organic carbon sank to the seafloor. Carbon dioxide therefore accumulated more easily in the atmosphere, helping maintain the warm climate. As the planet began to cool, ice sheets expanded and sea level fell. Some shallow continental seas disappeared, and the way sediments captured phosphorus changed. More phosphate became available to organisms in the open ocean. Plankton productivity increased, sending larger quantities of organic carbon toward the seabed. The study identified what researchers describe as a sea level sweet spot. When global sea level was roughly 10 to 40 meters above its modern position, the ocean system appeared particularly efficient at burying organic carbon. Sea level was low enough to reduce phosphate trapping on vast shallow shelves, but still high enough to maintain productive coastal and marine environments. During these intervals, marine life effectively strengthened the planet's cooling. More phosphate supported more biological production. More carbon became incorporated into organisms, and more of that material escaped decomposition and was buried beneath the seafloor. Atmospheric carbon dioxide declined, which encouraged further cooling and additional ice growth. This did not operate like a household thermostat that instantly switches heating on or off. The process unfolded over hundreds of thousands or millions of years. It involved interactions between geology, biology, ocean chemistry, and climate. Yet over geological time, it could alter the direction of Earth's temperature. Oxygen played an important role because it determines how efficiently organic matter is decomposed. In oxygen-rich water, microbes can rapidly break down sinking material and release its carbon. When bottom waters contain less oxygen, decomposition becomes slower or incomplete, allowing more carbon to survive and become buried. Phosphorus behaves differently under various oxygen conditions as well. In some low-oxygen environments, sediments release phosphate back into the water rather than permanently trapping it. That recycled nutrient can stimulate additional plankton growth, which produces more sinking organic matter. Its decomposition consumes more oxygen, potentially reinforcing low-oxygen conditions and increasing carbon burial. This means life was not merely responding to Earth's climate. Microscopic organisms were actively influencing it. Plankton absorbed atmospheric carbon, microbes determined how much was recycled, and seafloor chemistry controlled whether phosphorus remained buried or returned to the ocean. To reconstruct this hidden system, researchers examined chemical evidence preserved in marine sediments. Ancient rocks contain isotopic and elemental records that reveal past oxygen conditions, nutrient availability, biological productivity, and carbon burial. These records were compared with reconstructions of sea level and atmospheric carbon dioxide across tens of millions of years. The results suggested that enhanced burial of organic carbon contributed significantly to the long decline in atmospheric carbon dioxide after the early Cenozoic greenhouse world. Instead of all the missing carbon being locked away through rock weathering and carbonate formation, a substantial amount may have been stored as organic material beneath the ocean. This helps explain major transitions in Earth's recent geological history. Around 34 million years ago, Antarctica shifted from a largely ice-free environment to one supporting a major continental ice sheet. Later cooling allowed ice to expand elsewhere, eventually producing the glacial cycles associated with the modern world. These transformations depended on many processes, including changes in ocean circulation, mountain building, volcanic emissions, continental positions, and Earth's orbit. The phosphate feedback does not replace those explanations. It adds a missing connection that may help explain how an initial period of cooling became sustained over millions of years. The study also reveals that the relationship between sea level and climate is more complex than it first appears. Today, sea level rise is mainly discussed as a consequence of warming. Ice melts, ocean water expands, and coastlines flood. Over geological time, however, sea level can also influence climate by changing where nutrients and sediments accumulate. A rising ocean can cover continental shelves, alter erosion, move coastlines inland, and change the exchange of material between land and deep water. A falling ocean can expose new land, redirect rivers, and transform shallow marine habitats. These changes affect both the carbon cycle and the ecosystems that participate in it. The newly identified thermostat does not mean modern climate change will correct itself soon. The feedback operates far too slowly to protect human societies from warming during this century. Carbon released by burning fossil fuels is entering the atmosphere much faster than long-term geological systems can remove it. Natural carbon burial may eventually absorb part of today's emissions, but that process would occur across timescales far longer than human civilizations, infrastructure, or ecosystems can easily tolerate. Sea levels could rise substantially, heat waves could intensify, and species could disappear long before geological feedbacks restore a cooler balance. There is also no guarantee that the system always produces a gentle correction. Feedbacks can overshoot, interact, or change as continents and oceans evolve. Earth's history includes extreme greenhouse climates, major glaciations, widespread ocean oxygen loss, and mass extinctions. A natural thermostat does not keep conditions constant. It only helps explain why the planet has repeatedly moved back from some extremes over very long periods. The research may improve climate models used to reconstruct the past and explore the distant future. Many models represent the carbon cycle through volcanic emissions, rock weathering, ocean chemistry, and biological production. Better understanding how sea level controls phosphorus could make those simulations more realistic. It could also help scientists interpret ancient climate events. If sediment records show changes in carbon burial, researchers may now investigate whether shifting sea levels altered nutrient availability at the same time. Patterns once treated as unrelated may be parts of one connected mechanism. Perhaps the most remarkable lesson is that Earth's climate may have been influenced by something as ordinary as the depth of coastal seas and something as small as microscopic plankton. A coastline moving inland could trap phosphorus in shallow sediment. A coastline retreating could release more nutrients toward the open ocean. Those nutrients could feed organisms that pulled carbon dioxide from the air, died, sank, and eventually became part of the geological record. Over millions of years, countless microscopic cells may have helped cool an entire planet. The discovery does not reveal a machine hidden inside Earth. It reveals a network. Temperature changes ice sheets. Ice sheets alter sea level. Sea level changes phosphorus. Phosphorus controls marine productivity. Marine organisms influence oxygen and carbon burial. Carbon burial changes atmospheric carbon dioxide, which feeds back into temperature. Each step appears small when viewed alone. Together, they form a planetary process powerful enough to help shape 60 million years of climate history. Earth's natural thermostat is therefore not located in one place. It operates through mountains, rivers, continental shelves, ocean currents, sediments, and living cells. The planet remained habitable not because its climate stood still, but because geology and life repeatedly responded to change. Scientists have now uncovered another connection within that system. Hidden beneath ancient seas, phosphorus and microscopic life may have been quietly controlling how much carbon remained in the sky and helping transform a greenhouse Earth into the cooler world we know today.